And tonight's Christmas story I'm going to read is called The Nutcracker. And this book has beautiful pictures. Okay. It was Christmas Eve and the snow was gently falling. Clara and her brother Fritz were very excited. That night there would be a magnificent party with music and dancing, as well as lots of fantastic presents. Fritz was busy with his toy soldiers, lining them up and giving them their orders. Clara put the finishing touches to the enormous Christmas tree. She hung shining baubles and candy canes tied with bows from the branches. "This is my favourite part," Clara said to her brother, as she lifted up a beautiful fairy with delicate wings and a sugar plum coloured dress. There's a fairy there. At last it was time for the party to begin. "The guests are arriving," cried Clara, peeping out of her bedroom window. Fritz came running over to see who was crunching through the snow. "Can you see Godfather Drosselmeyer?" asked Clara. "Yes, there he is, waving," cried Fritz. "Come on." Their godfather was a famous toy maker. He made the most magical toys in the whole city. Clara and Fritz could hardly wait to see what he had brought for them. There he is there, their godfather. Godfather Drosselmeyer hugged the children at the door, and with a flourish he produced 2 gifts. Fritz eagerly unwrapped a mechanical gobstopper machine. For Clara there was a wooden nutcracker in the shape of a soldier. "Take good care of him," said Godfather Drosselmeyer. "He is very special." "I love him," Clara whispered. "Thank you." "But he's a soldier," said Fritz, "so he should be mine." "You can't have him," cried Clara. Fritz tried to snatch the nutcracker away from her. He pulled and Clara tugged, and then crack! The nutcracker's leg snapped off. Uh-oh. Clara cradled the nutcracker in her arms and wept. "Don't cry, Clara," said her godfather gently. "This soldier has been wounded, but I can soon fix him." Godfather Drosselmeyer pulled a little tool pouch from his pocket and quickly mended the nutcracker so that he looked as good as new. "Oh, thank you," said Clara, drying her eyes. "I'll never let anyone hurt him again." Everyone was dancing now, and the house was filled with music and laughter. Clara placed the nutcracker carefully under the Christmas tree and went to join the party. Look, and they've got cakes over here, and everybody's dancing. Finally, the last dance was danced, and the guests said their goodbyes. The family went to bed, and the house was dark and quiet. Bong! Clara awoke to hear the last bong of the clock striking midnight. "Oh no," she thought. "I left the nutcracker all alone under the tree." Clara tiptoed downstairs and crept under the Christmas tree, holding the nutcracker protectively. Suddenly, the tree started to grow, taller and taller. Or was it just that Clara was shrinking? "What's happening?" she cried. "Don't be afraid," said a kind voice suddenly. Clara turned around. Her nutcracker had come alive. Behind him, Fritz's soldiers were sitting up in their toy box, and Clara's dolls were gazing around. Before Clara could speak, she heard a scurrying sound, and from every nook and cranny an army of mice poured into the room, and they were led by a giant mouse king with a golden crown. "Attack!" he squealed. "Who will fight with me?" cried the nutcracker, and the soldiers marched boldly out of the toy box. Oh, they're about to have a big fight. Oh, look, they're all fighting. "To battle!" ordered the nutcracker. The soldiers shouted and cheered, and the mice squealed and squeaked. Suddenly, Clara saw the Mouse King spring towards the beloved nutcracker, baring his teeth. "No!" cried Clara, and she snatched off her slipper and hurled it at the Mouse King. He fell to the ground with a cry, and his crown tumbled from his head. With their leader defeated, the mice scurried away in fear, and the battle was won. The nutcracker picked up Clara's slipper and placed it on her foot. She gasped. The nutcracker had been transformed into a handsome prince. "I owe you my life, Princess Clara," he said. "You broke the spell that was put on me long ago by a wicked mouse queen." I'm glad that you're safe, said Clara, but you're mistaken. I'm not a princess. Are you sure? Asked the prince. Clara looked down and saw that she was wearing a glittering gown and satin shoes. Come, said the prince, I'm going to take you on a wonderful adventure. Look, she's got a crown on too. She must be a princess now. The walls of the sitting room seemed to fade away, and a beautiful sleigh drew up in front of them, led by 2 reindeer. Clara and the prince climbed aboard, and they were swept high into the sky among the sparkling stars. Suddenly, Clara caught sight of a magical land down below. Lollipop trees shimmered on candy floss hills. There were gingerbread houses and rivers of honey and an orange-scented breeze. Where are we? Gasped Clara. This is a kingdom of sweets, said the prince. Oh my goodness, I want to go to the kingdom of sweets. Sounds delicious. The sleigh landed beside a rose-coloured lake and changed into a sea chariot pulled by dolphins. Swans swam beside them, and shimmering fish leapt out of the water. On the far side of the lake was a magnificent marzipan palace. A fairy with delicate wings was waving to them from the gate. Look, said the prince, it's a sugar-plum fairy. Prince Nutcracker, cried the fairy, you're home at last. This is Princess Clara, said the prince as they stepped ashore. She saved my life and broke the Mouse Queen's spell. The sugar-plum fairy hugged Clara. Come and join the celebrations, she said. Inside the palace, Clara and the prince feasted on delicious cakes and sweets. They watched in wonders as dancers from every corner of the world whirled around the room. Then it was the sugar-plum fairy's turn. Clara had never seen such dancing. She twirled and twirled until all Clara could see was a blur of her plum-coloured dress. Clara's eyelids began to droop. Her adventures had made her very tired, and the sound of the music became fainter and fainter. When Clara woke up on Christmas morning, she found herself curled up under the Christmas tree next to the Nutcracker. Toys were strewn across the floor, and her parents were standing over her. What have you been doing? Asked her father. Oh, I've had the most wonderful adventure, said Clara. She told her parents all about the Mouse King, the Nutcracker Prince, and the Kingdom of Sweets. It was just a dream, darling, said her mother. Clara gazed up at the sugar-plum-coloured fairy on top of the tree, and then she looked at the wooden Nutcracker in her hands. Perhaps it was, she said. Suddenly, Clara noticed something glinting on the carpet, and smiles spread across her face. It was a tiny golden crown. Merry Christmas, Prince Nutcracker, she whispered. Because that tiny little crown belonged to the Mouse King that she defeated, didn't it? So we know that it wasn't just a dream, it really happened. And that's the end.